Hi, this is John, and in this video we're going to be implementing a feature that will allow players to spawn in a unit at their mouse position deterministically in-game. We're going to be doing this with BehaviourHelpers, which is all derived from this script, and as you can see it has various lockstep behaviors like initialize and then the late initialize and such. The simulate, I believe it also has deactivate for the end of games. And also has listen input, which is used to detect when certain inputs are given or commanded. To start off, let's create a new folder called scripts within our main folder. And let's create a new script that will be our behavior helper for this feature called desert unit spawner. And let's open it up. Set it up. Let me just reset this. And we're going to make it derived from BehaviourHelper after we first type using lockstep framework. Now we'll have the reference BehaviourHelper. And to start us off, let's also make our own namespace called desert RTS for the future, and now dump all our scripts in. So to start off, we're going to be defining the actual function to spawn units in. So let's return the agent that we're spawning. Let's call this simple spawn unit, and we'll give it a new controller. The controller that it's assigned to. We'll give it the agent code parameter that can be configured inside the inspector with DataCodes, which we'll go over later. And then let's also give it vector 2D position to spawn it at. And the simple way to spawn a unit, you just do controller dot create agent, and create bear agent and commander are similar but different. They don't set the agent up all the way. So let's just do the standard create agent. We'll tell it what agent to spawn as well as where to spawn it. Okay, and it's actually that simple. And then we also have to do let's return the agent to make this function complete. Okay, so now let's hook this function up into the simulation deterministically so that players can make inputs and spawn units into the game for everyone and into all instances of a replay. So let's create a command, and we're going to be using command system, by the way, which are just structures that allow or that can be serialized flexibly and assigned to certain frames to be executed on specific frames for all the clients in Lockstep Framework. The key thing is we just need to create one and send one, and it'll register for all clients through Lockstep Framework. Okay, so let's do public command get spawn command, and let's make the parameters be the controller we're going to spawn from, the agent code, or the agent we're going to be spawning, as well as the position we're going to be spawning at. Okay, so let's create a new command. And there is a override function. So we're not going to use this standard creation. We're just going to create an empty command and then input those attributes manually. So we add the controller, that information is given to us, and we're going to set that to the controller we are given. That guy's controller ID. We have the agent code. And the thing is, strings aren't directly serializable in commands. We have to wrap it in this class, this standing class right here, which is part of Lockstep Framework. It just automatically serializes a bunch of standard classes or structures like int, short, strings. So let's go back to our desert unit spawner and add agent code within a default data. And we're also going to add vector 2D position. And if you can see here, this already has functions, or it's implemented to be able to be automatically serialized, so we don't need to wrap that in another class. So we can just do column.data to add position. Okay, so now we're also going to create a command to register all this data and link it back in a spawn unit when we get it back from the on the other side of the network, on the other side of multiplayer. So we're going to do, let's say, void process spawn command, and it's just the spawn command that we receive, which is going to be nearly identical to the one that we sent out, at least in terms of all the data we serialized. So let's just hook up, we can extract all the data that we saved. For example, int, or let's just do var controller code, controller ID, controller code ID. They're not interchangeable, but it's not a big deal. Let's get the agent code. And it is strongly typed. It's just because, alright, as yeah, you have to get the value, which is an object, and you can convert that to a string. We can get into the specifics of commands later and why using a lot of default data isn't a good idea, but that's not important for now. For now, we're just extracting the data that we saved here and converting it back into a string. So let's also get the position. And after we have all that data, we can hook it back up into here. And by the way, to convert a control ID, which is, of course, it's a number, it's not an actual class that we can send across, we have to plug it back into agent controller. And this is all, this right here, instance managers, this is deterministic. So you can just plug that number back in com, where we have controller code, and let's plug in agent code as well as position. Okay, so now we have a command, a function to create a command, function to process that command, and convert all the parameters and, or extract all the data in the command to eventually hook it back or send it into the spawn unit function to spawn the unit via the command. Okay, compiled with no problem. Let's attach the script to our manager, and we're actually going to attach it to, we're going to create another object, and within manager, a child object, or call it desert RTS behavior, just to organize it a little bit, so we're not messing around or like fumbling through all the default behaviors that are attached. We're going to attach our spawner script, and oops, I believe the data code, it's not inputs, it is just input, right? Okay, so that actually might need to be fixed in the database, but that's not important right now. We're going to change this data code to input so that it matches this value right here in the database. And we give it a little bit to compile. Okay, so now we can select any of these. We're actually going to create our own unique input, just so there's no collisions with the spawn, which I believe that Desert RTS, or I'm sorry, Auto Spawner uses. So we're going to call this Desert RTS spawn, and then we're going to use that in for our input code. We're going to just spawn test agent. Actually, let's spawn infantry. Okay, save that, and now let's run. Okay, so if I press spacebar, as expected, units are spawned. Now, if we click playback and play the replay, if it all works correctly, they should also be spawned deterministically. Yep, because the commands were recorded inside the replay system, just the default example replay system. Okay, so now we created a unit factory. We're going to leave that as it is, just for testing out. And for the purpose of sake of time, I'm going to be moving on to multiplayer, just setting up something cool to play. So we'll be definitely working on the unit factory or the desert unit spawner more in the future, but we're going to leave off at that. Thanks for watching. I hope you learned more about behavior helpers as well as various pieces of Blockside framework. Happy developing. Bye.